Hey everyone, we're here live again with Brad Geddes from Adalysis. So Brad is the co-founder of Adalysis, which is a PPC recommendation software for Google Ads and Microsoft Ads, and he's also a renowned author and speaker. He actually is the author of Advanced Google AdWords, who both teaches and practices SEO, PPC, CRO, affiliate marketing, and a whole other things. So Brad, I'm just gonna let you take on the audience and delight us with your presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So, hey everyone. So we're going to look at managing Google Ads queries. And the reason we kind of want to walk through this is in the past, present I'm working, there we go. In the past 2.5 years, Google has changed every single match type. Now, some of these, such as exact match in the United States, were changed about 2.5 years ago. But when you look at modified broad match changes in the Netherlands and Germany, they didn't roll out until about 6 weeks ago. So based upon your language, you may still be seeing some of these changes. And when we look at the overall changes, a large part of it is that Google is now matching keywords to other words that they deem have the same meaning, which is a very important thing. It's what they believe is the same meaning, not what you may believe. And we'll get some examples in a second. Now, in addition, words that have low semantic load, which basically means words that don't affect the intent of the query, can be added or removed from a term. Now, this is a really subtle change that sometimes when Google gets it wrong, makes a big change. So for instance, if you think of the word and, a lot of times people are like, and it's just a connector word, doesn't matter. But if we say table lamp versus tables and lamps, we've completely changed, right, what those items are. And word order has a lot less meaning these days. So we've always been able to match to misspelling, different stemmings, and so forth. But so when we think about match types today, right, exact match matches the same intent. So not the queries, right? We're not saying keywords and queries, the same intent. Phrase match is the same intent, but may have additional information. So before it was you've got 2 words or 3 words, whatever it was, they must be in this order. And you can have words before and after. Now it's here's the intent, but we could have more information added before, after, even in the query. We have modified broad, similar-ish intent. And then, of course, broad match is crazy. So to give you some examples of these changes, right? If we have an exact match keyword, forms of trademark, right? This is someone who's just trying to figure out what are all the different trademark types that exist. This now matches to trademark forms, which is usually a PDF download, right? Someone's looking to copyright a logo is a much different user than someone who's looking for a trademark symbol, which is almost always someone who wants to just copy and paste the trademark symbol from the web because they don't know how to make it in a Word doc. Now, where it starts to really get tricky are words like tickets, right? Ticket resellers have seen some issues where someone searches Branson or any city name 2-for-1 tickets that's user related to events, and Google's matching it to city names 2-for-1, which is usually a restaurant deal, which may be completely different than an event. Now, where it starts to get even trickier is when you have words like sale, deals, and packages. Now, Google's treating those words almost identical right now, but at times you may consider sale items, overstock items, deals completely different, and you've segmented them differently, and Google's just sort of serving them all simultaneous. Now, where it gets even a little bit crazier, moving to phrase match, we've seen SKU numbers. So the top one's a SKU, is a keyword, and Google's actually matching that to Weber 2-burner grill. So usually SKUs aren't searched by users, right? Those are almost always B2B buyers or your competitors. They're not usually individual consumers. We've seen things like Patagonia jacket. This is phrase match, right? This is a brand jacket matched to Patagonia chili, which of course is just a location. That we went from an actual product to a location being substituted. Cheap laptops. Well, cheap may be very different than affordable, different than discount, different than on sale. And where those sometimes get subtly different is when you have multiple ad groups that Google's matching across. We're going to cover that in a moment. When we get to modified broad, this is also where we've seen some issues where Coach Purse and Coach Wallet, Google's matching the same way. And of course, a person who searches for a purse is not necessarily looking for a wallet. We've seen Coach Wallet cost matched to Coach Purse. So this is where things aren't always good. Now, there is some good news. Most people in e-commerce travel, right, which of course travel is paused right now for the most part, but where you've got a lot of similar adjectives are doing okay if the selections on the product page. So let's give an example here. So let's say someone is searching for red Nike shoes. And we'll even make it more specific, say size 11 red Nike shoes. And then on the and that's your keyword, the user types in green size 13 Nike shoes. So Google swapped out red and size and decided that was the same thing. If on your product page, the user can change the size, the user can change the color, conversion rates don't seem to be affected much. Now, if your ad said size 13 red Nike shoe, then your click-through rate might have been. If, right, on your product page, you don't have all the drop-downs, the user has to go back to the category page to change a size or a color or something, and then re-enter product pages. That's when conversion rates start to drop, and there's some real issues. So based upon product level options, if Google's just showing similar terms for product level options, you don't see a conversion rate drop. You may see, again, click-through rate drops. If the user must go to category, that's where some weird stuff starts to happen. Now, because they're matching what they deem similar, there are times right now that there's not a good solution. This is a e-commerce restaurant wholesale company. So if you want to order 50 waiter uniforms, they'll sell you 50 uniforms. They'll sell one. They don't like to, but they prefer the bulk orders. If someone searches for restaurant waiter clogs plural, their average checkout is $6.23. If someone searches restaurant waiter clog singular, the checkout's $91. They are willing to bid 5 times higher if you add the S to your search term. Google thinks these are the same word. And trying with 3 words and all the possible misspellings, trying to split those into 2 ad groups to force that bid difference, there's too many possible negatives when you say this is for every product in their catalog, right? So they can't do it well with the new system. And so what you're really looking for are areas where you've seen declines in conversion rates, declines in click-through rates, declines in ROAS, so that you can fix it. If it's not broken, of course, right, don't fix it. So what's happening then to a lot of people who have really good account structure is Google is matching to one of the worst ad groups that exists in the account at times. So it's a company where, you can do a trademark registration on your own or hire a lawyer. And so they've got an ad group, register trademark. They have the exact match keyword, register trademark. And when someone searched for it in a 30-day period of time, that ad group got 11 impressions. They have this other ad group near the bottom, called trademarking. It's got the modified broad match trademarking in it. The ad is not as specific as it matches to all kinds of various things. It's a backup ad group just to catch the stuff they don't have exact match keywords for. And when a user is typing in registered trademark, the same search term as we have an exact match for in a different ad group in the same campaign, it has 1,000 impressions in the past 30 days. So Google's often stealing impressions from your exact match ad groups and putting them elsewhere. And if you have good structure and good ads and landing pages, this of course lowers click-through rate, lowers conversion rate. So what we first have to think about is we no longer have phrase match as our sort of escape, where we can jump to phrase match and know, hey, Google's not going to mess with this. They now mess with phrase match. They have a hierarchy system. There are so many exceptions, it's not even worth learning because it rarely actually works. Now, if you have a lazy account set up and you just kind of lumped a lot of stuff together and didn't do the work, you probably have more impressions with these changes. If you did the work and you have great structure, then Google's messing your hierarchy, and you've probably seen some ad groups with lower click-through rates and conversion rates. And so we want to look at then is, all right, our words can match to similar types of words. Google can do word substitution, so forth. So what do we do with this, right? That's the big question. So number one, pivot tables. And if you're here at this conference and you don't know pivot tables, then after the conference is over, go watch an hour of YouTube videos on pivot tables because they will change how you think of data analysis. So number one is just saying, do we have a problem? Let's take a time frame. This is just a month of 2019 versus a month of 2018, about 45 days after it launched in the US, and said, do we even have a problem? And when we look at, say, exact match, we were running $20 CPAs, and after the change, running $41 CPAs, doubled. That's not a good change, right? Our phrase match went from 57 to 89. So here we have a problem. Not everyone does. So question one is, if you just look at a year-over-year match type analysis, right? And of course, brand versus non-brand, right? Don't mix them together, right? Is there a problem? Now, when you do this type of analysis, this year-over-year, month-over-month, whatever analysis in Google, never use the comparison tool in the interface. It's a great tool, right? It's got a lot of uses, but one of its issues is that if your data doesn't exist in your initial time frame that you're looking at, then it will never show a comparison negative. So for instance, let's say you had a bunch of keywords and you paused them. And in the interface, you're looking at only enabled keywords. So of course, they've been paused. You're only looking at enabled. Those entities don't exist. So if you do a comparison to the past, because these entities don't exist right now, you won't see, oh, hey, we lost conversions from these keywords because Google's going to ignore them in the other time frame because there's nothing to compare against. So this is where just doing a simple join in Excel will fix your problem. And we're going to send out the deck so you'll have these presentations just as a reminder of what you're looking for. So as you do these, right, step one is doing this analysis in a pivot table for keywords by match types, seeing where those problems exist. Second is then doing the same thing for your search term data. So in our search terms, we're going to see things like exact match, phrase match, broad match, and then we're going to see close variants, right? Exact match means the query and the keyword are the same. Close variant means Google decided to match this search term with this keyword, but it's not actually the keyword. Therefore, it's known as a variant in the search term report. So by looking at our data, right, exact versus close variants of exact, phrase versus close variants of phrase. We can start to look to see, are there areas we should narrow down to in examining the queries to see where Google's taking some liberties matching they shouldn't. So for instance, our exact match CPA is 30. Our exact match close variant CPA is 30. Yeah, there's a few cent difference, but it's pretty close. Now, if we look at CTRs, our exact match is a 6% CTR. Our close variants are 15%. So we actually might want to go look at the close variants because they have a much better click-through rate than our exact matches. If we jump to phrase match, our CPA is $8, but our phrase match close variance is 27. It's triple. Something's getting matched there that is really not relevant to what we're doing. So we want to go dig into that and say what needs to get removed from this area. So the other thing that then happens is you're looking at your keywords, right? And often you look at your search queries, and in your search queries, you may have filters running that say, if I've got 25 impressions and 5 conversions in the past day, in the past month, and right, it's not been added or excluded, we select them all and add them as keywords. Right? That's a fairly common workflow. So what's happening these days is that's causing duplicate keywords. Essentially, if Google has shown you in 5 ad groups for a search term, and maybe all 5 did well enough to be above your filters, you selected all and added them, you made a bunch of duplicate keywords. So what's happening here is when we start looking in the search terms, is this account does not have this search term Patagonia Chili in the entire account. They're a travel site. They have a lot of ad groups that have that exact keyword in the ad group, and Google has decided to show this search term across roughly 17 ad groups for them. And so these duplicate search terms, because they're in so many different places, when you look at the individual data, they may have so few impressions, they never bubble up, which is where n-gram analysis can be useful to find these patterns. 2, when you have the same search term in a bunch of different ad groups, because you don't bid by search term, right? You bid by keyword or ad group. So what happens is you have a search term in 8 places, you bid by keyword, you're not aggregating your search term data to determine the bid. Your bids aren't quite right. And this doesn't matter if you're using Google's machine learning, CPA or target ROAS, or your own system. You're not bidding on a search term basis any longer. Because the same search term is in 8 ad groups. Any ad testing you're doing, landing page testing you're doing isn't quite accurate. And so when Google launched this change, we saw an explosion of duplicates that I thought Google had even changed broad match and modified broad and some other match types. And had some long chats with the project managers, and they haven't. But the machine learning system has just kicked in more to expand some of the other types of queries. So then back to our pivot tables. We often just want to know is, do we have duplicate search terms, right? So if we download our search terms and just say our row labels are search term, how many ad groups is it in? Do we have something more than 2, right? If so, then we may want to go and look at this to add some negative keywords to force the better ad group to show for these keywords. Now, there are times you may legitimately have the same keyword in multiple ad groups in the account. This is a car rental site, and they're in 154 different countries. So they've got a campaign per country. So you would expect to see the same keyword in 154 different campaigns. So that's where you can do the same pivot table, right? Add the campaign count, just do a delta between ad group and campaign. It's not perfect, because if you've got a word that's been shown from, in this case, we'll use 154 campaigns, but in reality, right, it was shown in 146 ad groups here, but 6 over here, it adds up to the same numbers. So it's not exact, but it's really close.
Thank you,
If
Brad. Sorry,
are we?
it's time for our Q&A session too.
Oh, we should be. Oh, that's why my question was at 3:30, right? Are we going to 3:30? Are we going to 3:22?
We have 10 more minutes, and the guys here in the chat session are calling you a legend.
Oh no, that we were off on. I was just off on when our session was going to end because I was still thinking the 30-minute marks. Give me 2 minutes, and then we'll do Q&A.
Okay, awesome.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Sure.
All right. If you need if you have a lot of traffic, right, then do this analysis. Again, just download the deck. We're looking at, here is the search term to keyword change year over year. This will show you what keywords are no longer showing for certain search terms. When you have duplicate search terms, right, what you want to look at is what's my best conversion rate to get rid of your other negatives. So when you're adding queries, right, one thing just to also consider is, does the keyword already exist? Because if the keyword exists, right, which is something whenever you have to do in a workflow, then you want to use negatives to stop yourselves from adding additional keywords. So a workflow for a long time, this has been really good, except we never had the does this keyword exist before because it wasn't necessary. So for finding duplicate keywords, you can repeat all these same steps, just use keywords instead of queries. And then lastly, there may be some organizational changes you have to do, right? If you think of the word car hire, that's a European word for car rental. In the US, we call it car rental. Google considers hire and rental the exact same thing. Users, right, when they search for car rental and they see an ad that says car hire, their click-through rate drops a lot. Trying to manage this by ad group is almost impossible. So you may do some campaign level segmentation with negatives just to help clean it up and organize this. So your match type analysis, duplicates, number one thing to look for. 2, words Google's now considering the same that aren't the same. So you can add your negatives, right? 3, repeat the same analysis for keywords as you do for queries. All right, and with that, I will flip back over to our chat window here, and we can get into any other questions and thoughts we have.
Awesome. So let's just start with a question from RJ Jacques. I was about to say Jacques because I like that singer a lot. And he's asking if you have any advice with using demographic targeting. Is it an unknown waste of money? So, no, actually, is unknown a waste of money? That's the correct question.
Oh, not necessarily, right? Unknown, you look at your data for unknown. You get the stats by the category. In B2B, unknown is often a very high percentage. In the US, you may see unknown at 8 or 10% at times. In Germany, you may be 10 to 12% of unknown. But that could be Google doesn't have data. It's a brand new phone. There are some other privacy settings in place. So look at your unknown data and make that decision. But there are times it can do really well.
Awesome. We have another question from Ana Maria, and it says, what blog or any other source should we follow so that we are aware very quickly about any Google Ads changes?
So from a Google Ads change place, searchengineland.com, they do a recap, which is unbelievable every day. That's one of my favorites. You have the Paid Search Association, PSA, which does also a recap of various things. And then Google does have a change page where they will show you, here are the change histories that's going through within Google. So if you really want to be obsessive about it, you can check Google's change history page. In fact, I will throw it in the window in the chat room, and so that way everyone can sort of see that change history page as well. All right.
Okay, 2 more questions. One is from Lance Sherman, and he's asking, why does mobile data differ so much from desktop on e-commerce?
Oh gosh, users, right? Like, I mean, my wife spends way too much money online, like I'm sure a lot of other people you know do. But if it's something complicated, she reads it on her phone and then walks to her computer to order. Two, some of your shopping carts, no offense, are horrible on mobile devices, right? Where you don't allow for someone who has like a LastPass or Save credit cards to automatically put their credit cards into the cart. What there are times we ordered food from a place last week and we couldn't figure out how to order because it turned out you put in 4 of your credit card numbers. They put the dash in automatically, except their system wouldn't accept dashes. So you actually had to backspace over the dash to enter the credit cards every 4 times, right? So if someone's trying to give you your credit card, take the money, right? That should be a pretty simple thing, but right, I'm sure everyone's had experience with like just formatting cards, right? Devs should automatically take out spaces and dashes. It's 16 digits, right? It's not hard to figure out, but it's still a problem. This is much harder to do on mobile, right? And mobile is still more research. Desktop is often more by behavior. So there's a lot of reasons, but those are some of them that sort of spring to mind.
Awesome. So the last question is from Slobodan from Serbia, if I remember correctly, our neighbors here. And he's asking, are SCAG structure over now with the changes, or do we need to create a better process?
So I was never a fan of SCAGs to begin with. Single keyword ad groups. It was not worth the work in most cases. There's always exceptions for some brand terms, high value terms, whatnot. In this new structure, SCAGs are going to be really hard to maintain if you truly want to do it right because of negative keyword limits. So it's an ad group. If you're making 8 SCAGs and using the exact same ad, you've gained nothing. You could have just done keyword level bidding to begin with.
Okay, so that's it for now. Thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. Thank you for putting up with the technical hiccups, you and everyone.
It's all good.
Crazy. And in the end, if people want to reach out to you, they can do it via your LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn's a great place. I'm eWhisper on LinkedIn. I'm BG Theory on Twitter. Depending on your country, you probably have a favorite. So either way, it's all good for me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And tune in, guys, for the next session, which is about SEO. Thank you.
Excellent.
As an e-commerce manager, you want to stop spending money on expensive ads. OmniConvert Explore helps you improve conversion through A/B testing, personalization, and surveys. Understand that growth is also a matter of retention, not only acquisition. With OmniConvert Reveal, you'll understand segments, monitor customer experience, and nurture your customers on every channel.